Yo, peace was good. Welcome to an installment of introduction. The artist that I'll be talking about tonight is Godfather Don, one of my favorite producers slash MCs. One of my biggest influence production wise. You know, I have people tell me like some of my beats are reminiscent of his style and stuff like that, and that dude is the truth. You know what I mean? Like to me, he kind of reminds me of like Lost Professor, like an evil, like a dark version of Lost Professor, production wise and stuff like that. Um, Alright, and how I got introduced by Godfather Don was actually back in the early 2000s, around 2002, and you know, because at that time I was really big into horrorcore, and then I was just stumbling around. Like I would go like Barnes and Nobles, like close to the apartments I used to live at, and just like just be listening to music over there and stuff like that, just playing around and things of that nature. And then next year, I stumbled upon the Four Horsemen album, and and I was listening to some of the tracks and things like that. I was like, I fell in love with that album. So I ended up getting the album and things like that. And I remember hearing Raise It Up, and I fucking love that song. Like that shit, just like that was my intro. That song Raise It Up was actually my introduction to Godfather Don, and the fact that he did the beat for it, it was just like crazy. You know what I mean? Because it was like a different sound for the Ultramagnet MCs, which I would have to do a separate video about them, but definitely stay tuned for that. All right, and then eventually I'm gonna have to do Cool Keith as well. So definitely stay tuned for that shit. All right, and so then now I'm gonna get into the biography of Godfather Don, and then like his albums and things like that. I'm just gonna stick with the I'm just gonna stick with his full length albums, not the EPs and the 12 inches, because that's a lot of music to remember of. All right, so anyways, so Godfather Don, he actually got his start back in the late '80s. He got put on by Chubb Rock. They were in the same record label, Select Records, home of Kid and Play, Chubb Rock, The Real Roxanne, MOP eventually, but that was like years later, around like '93, and things of that nature. And then someone, and I don't think was Special. No, I think Special was with Profile Records. I'm not sure. I could be wrong about that, but he was doing demos in the hood because he's from Flatbush, Brooklyn, so he would do like demos around for people, like local rappers and things like that. Yeah. So, anyways, like I was saying before, he would do like demos, like produce demos for people and things like that, and then he would produce stuff for himself, and then Chubb Rock like what he heard, and then he ended up showing it to the A&R whatever, and then that's what got him signed to Select Records, and then he started recording tracks, demos and things like that, or it's like demos that he had before, and next thing you know, he ended up putting out Hazardous in 1991, and man, I'm trying to get my hands on that album, and that album is very hard to come by. It goes for a lot of money. I remember at one time I seen it for on eBay for like $100, and I'm not spending that kind of money on a CD just for one CD. If it was like a lot or something like that, a lot of like 20 CDs, then yeah, I would pay $100 for that. But that's just my opinion. It just depends on the caliber of CDs and things like that. But yeah, man, and I seen it recently, and I see it go for like $70. But again, I was still not gonna pay for that kind of money for one CD. But I know I had people tell me they did that. The most I spent on a CD for one CD was actually Nine's second album, Cloud Nine, that came out in '96. But that was because I bought it straight from him, and it was autographed. So, and it's brand spanking new. You know what I mean? So that's why that's the only reason why I copped it. But anyways, getting off track, getting back on track with with Godfather Don. Hazardous, if you hear the song in the background, that's a song that was left off the album, that didn't make the album. It was off of 12 that came out there in 2008, and it was actually, so it kind of sounds like that. It kind of has like that high, fast pace feel to it, like up tempo. You know, it kind of remind me of like a mixture of Eric B and Rakim's Let the Rhythm Hit the album and Main Source is Breaking Atoms. So if you mix those two production wise, they that's what pretty much Hazardous is, like the high fast pace and the jazz samples and things like that. You know, things like that. So um yeah, man. And then after Hazard, and then like I said, Hazardous, like I said, long out of print. It hasn't been reprinted. It hasn't been repressed or anything like that. You know what I mean? I would love for Godfather Don to release that. All right, but you know it is what it is. Then, fast forward to 1992, going to 1993. You know, he met Kool Keith. You know, they met. I think they met each other. You know, going to like Stretch and Barbito because they were like frequent visitors on that show. And then around that time, you know, Ultraman NMCs had dropped Funk Your Head Up. Excuse me, had dropped Funk Your Head Up, and then you know, after Funk Your Head Up, they were working on his third album, The Four Horsemen, which I just mentioned earlier, and you know, they like, I guess Kool Keith liked his music, and then vice versa, and things like that, and then eventually, they ended up, he ended up doing like 4 tracks on that album. He did Raise It. What did he do? I believe he did. I know he did Raise It Up. He produced Raise It Up. He did the Saga of the Dead, the Saga, the Devil, and the Dandy, which talks about black baseball. You know, it talks about Satchel Paige, Hank Aaron. You know, the Homestead Grays, and it talks about the history about and the racism that they dealt with around that time. You know, things like that. Jackie Robinson. You know, things of that nature. He did See the Man on the Street, and I want to say he did I forgot the name of the other joint that he did. I think Check Him Out Style. He did Check Him Out Style, and that to me was their best album. You know what I mean? Because like it was like a very different sound compared to their first 2 albums. Their first 2 albums were like a little bit more up tempo, things like that. Whereas it was like more funky sounding. Whereas the third one was like a completely different sound. Like, even Seth G's voice was deep because of I guess it was because of the mixing of the album, the way it sounded. That's why his voice sounded so deep and dark. But it definitely fit over Godfather Don's beats. And then like right after that album, it's what got Godfather Don noticed. You know what I mean? As far as like hip hop, like the whole world knowed about him. Well, I don't say the whole world, but like, like what the hip hop has started noticing about, Godfather Don. But it was his breakthrough album, is what I'm trying to say. And then after that, I was reading an interview when I'll post it out after the interview so you guys can read this dope interview. But he, Godfather Don was saying like him and Kool Keith would, go to Stretch and Barbito, and they had an idea like, let's just play some samples and play beats and like his own beats and stuff like that, and they would just like play, and then Kool Keith was just freestyle with Godfather Don beats and stuff, and that caused a kind of like a trend at that show, because now like because I guess like the week after that, that's when Lost Professor did that show with OC, and he bought the SP1200 and he busted out the beats and stuff like that. So, and that kind of like kind of influenced a lot of producers to do that. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then fast forward to 1995, Kool Keith and Godfather Don had dropped the EP called The Cenobites, which is them two, the Cenobites and stuff like that. And originally it was just an EP. And from what I heard is that they only recorded that joint in 1 week. It took them like, I think a week to record the whole, or they recorded like in 1 day or some shit like that. They recorded it, things like that, and man, like just some of the shit that they came with, man, it was just so dope, man. And yeah, man, and then eventually it was re-released in 2000, and it made it a full-length album. And the original version of Checking My Style is on the Cenobites album, but it's called Return to Zero. But it's instead of Kool Keith, this also Magnetic MCs, it's Kool Keith and Godfather Don. I think it was like a Kool Keith solo track. I don't remember. It's been a while since I heard the song, but that one's long out of print too. That goes for a lot of money. I've seen it go for like $75 online, which again, I'm not gonna spend that kind of money on one CD. Like, that's crazy. And then, throughout the mid '90s, he was putting out 12 inches, like songs like Stuck Off the Realness, Status, and joints like that, Properties of Steel, Seeds of Hate, and things like that. But then, throughout the late '90s, he was working on this material, and this material ended up becoming Diabolique, which is his second album. Diabolique, like I said, is his second album. Is like a whole bunch of new material, that you never heard before. Because most of the time, artists, what they would do is like they would put like a whole bunch of singles, and those would be like the precursors to the album. But he didn't do that. He recorded a whole bunch of material. I think the only song that only made it to the album as far as single wise before Diabolique was Properties of Steel. That was the only song that was featured on the album. I believe it was, if I'm not mistaken. And that was a dope album, and that was the first time I've heard from Godfather Don. And I do have it, but I have the 2010 reissue, because the OG copy is long out of print. But what I like about the 2010 reissue is that it comes with the original album, and it comes with the instrumentals. So if you're an MC, or if you don't want to hear the words, you just pop it in and you just listen to the instrumentals, and that goes your day. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I like about that joint right there. And so right after that, after Diabolique, people loving that album, things like that, and then he started putting out a bunch of 12 inches and stuff like that, a little bit more. And and I forgot too, around 97, 98, he's with Hydra Records. He been left Select Records, so he was under, Fondleman Records and Select Records. I mean, not Select, Hydra Records. And he put out a couple like 12-inch, like some instrumental albums, if you will, things like that during his stay with Hydra Records, which was one of my favorite record labels and stuff like that. But then around this time, he started working with Screwball. The Queensbridge group, which consists of 3 members: KL, Kamikaze, rest in peace to you, Hostile, and Black Poet. And he started working with them, did a couple beats for them, things like that on their first 2 albums. Dope underground classic albums, things of that nature, very dope. And then, things like that. And then he put out like another, I think, instrumental album that came out in 2003, 2004. But it was okay. It wasn't really the best. It wasn't really his best material. But sorry about that. But I've noticed a change with Godfather Don's sound. His sound wasn't with the Screwball songs. His sound was a little bit more cleaner. It wasn't as dark as his earlier stuff, like his early to mid '90s stuff. It wasn't as dark and creepy as it was. A little bit more cleaner, but it was street too. It was still street, but it just didn't have that dark, spooky feel that his earlier stuff did. You know what I mean? And then fast forward to 2007, he dropped a compilation album called the 90 Sessions. And the 90 Sessions was consist of unreleased songs that didn't make any of the albums. It was songs that he did between 1993 and 1997. And I'm still trying to get my hands on that joint, but that shit's long out of print. Because like I said, that came out 2007, and I wasn't really buying albums like that, like online. I was kind of relying on albums. I was kind of relying on buying CDs in stores and things like that. But that's just long out of print. And that's the thing with Godfather Don. Like, when he puts out stuff, like, you better catch on, because like he puts them out, and you know, it's very rare that he represses it, because once they're gone for good. You know what I mean? So that's the thing with that. So unfortunately, I don't have that in my hands, which is unfortunate. But you know, it is what it is. Let me see how much time I got left. Yeah, still got some time. I'm trying to wrap this up. My bad. Yeah, so like I said before, he put that out right there, and then between that time, he put out a couple of 12 inches. You know, it's like stuff that was, you know, kind of like the same thing. Like kind of like the leftover tracks and like certain, like not leftover tracks, but like, you know, bunch of unreleased demos and things like that. You know, he released a joint called the Demented Thoughts with Kool Keith, which is like, you know, unreleased Cenobite joints that, you know, didn't make the Cenobites album and things like that. You know, freestyle sessions, but over Godfather Don beats, like demos and things like that. And then fast forward to 2010, he came out with something called the Hydra the singles collection, which is songs like, you know, what you hear in the background. Seeds of Hate was just playing in the background. This is the instrumental version, but songs that he recorded between 1996 and 2000. So his latest stuff, like his Hydra, like I said, his Hydra era. You know what I mean? So again, another joint that's long out of print. Still trying to get my hands on that. You know, things like that. And within that same year, he had dropped an album called Donnie Brasco, which I do have in my collection. And Donnie Brasco is an album that he recorded between 1999 and 2001. So, again, you know, like I was saying about the Screwball stuff that he did for the stuff he did for Screwball, his sound wasn't as dark as, like I said, his earlier stuff. Like, you know, something like this, it's not as dark. And unfortunately, like I said, the Donnie Brasco album, it was cool, but it wasn't like his best material, and that's just my opinion. And you know, like it was okay, but it could have been a little bit better. You know, I was kind of expecting something like this, but you didn't really get that. So, like those beats to me, like even though he made the beats, but they didn't really fit Godfather Don very well. Some did, some didn't. I feel like those beats could have been used for like Screwballs, for a Screwball album, like, you know, stuff like that. But that's just my opinion. And then throughout the, you know, the mid 2000 teens, you know, they slowly started putting out like more 12 inches and stuff like that. And then I believe they put out another Cenobites 12-inch, which is like demos, like songs that didn't make the album as well. You know, stuff like Lazy Woman or Cold Peeing on Them, you know, joints like that. That was like, it was on YouTube, but the quality wasn't the best. And they cleaned it up and they put it the best they could, and then, you know, they released it on vinyl. So a lot of these are vinyl release only, unfortunately. If they came on CD, like, I would buy them. I'm not a vinyl head when it comes to like singles and things like that, but that's just me. And then last year, you know, Kick Drum Products released a new single from Godfather Don called Bottom Line, and man, that shit was fucking dope, man. Like, I'll post that down in the description box. And, you know, he just came with the business, man. Like, it sounds like the beat definitely sounds like vintage Godfather Don, but you can tell like the vocals are very new just because of the way he's rapping. He's like, he raps a lot more calmer. He's not as energetic, because, you know, I could imagine him getting older and hasn't been. I'm pretty sure he hasn't rapped in a long time, because like which I'll talk about in a little bit, but you know, he but it was dope. I fucks with it. I'll post that down in the description box, and that's pretty much it, man. Yeah, and then he came out with another 12-inch that's it in 2015, which is songs that he recorded from 1989 to 1998. So I thought that was pretty cool of him. But like I said, that was vinyl release. Those are vinyl releases and stuff. Overall, man, I highly recommend you guys checking them out, man. My recommendation, if you guys want to get to know who Godfather Don is, I would start with the Diabolique. You know, cause I know some of my viewers don't really like early 90s hip hop. Like, I have no problem with it, but I know some of you guys are like more, I don't say all you guys, but some people are more into like the, you know, 93, 95 bracket, you know what I'm saying? But I would start with like, you know, Diabolique, or if you can find, get the 90 Sessions album if you can find it, or even the singles collection. you can find it. You know what I mean? But you can always go on YouTube and check them out. So that's my recommendation. Godfather Don, with him as a person, he seemed like a cool guy, but he doesn't really do a lot of press. So finding interviews of him is, you know, kind of hard. You know, you can find him online, you know what I mean, but he doesn't do a whole bunch of interviews and things like that. He's kind of like more of a behind the scenes kind of guy, which you don't really see too many interviews on him on video, you know. So he kind of keeps to himself, you know. I always compare him to like the Sun Ra of hip hop, you know. He's kind of a weird dude in a sense, you know, just based on some of the interviews that I've read about him and, you know, things like that. But you know, he seemed like a down to earth kind of guy, you know. I don't say weird, but like more like eccentric. He's very eccentric, you know. And you know, and then shout out to my dude Miss Antargo one. Like he did a review on Donnie Brasco, and he said like he reminds him, Godfather Don reminds him of a gangster Lost Professor, and that's the best way I could say it. I could describe him. I could definitely agree with that, man. Godfather Don, if you do watch this, man, I would like to hear more music from you. Yeah, man, and I would like to. And he's doing jazz now. You know, he's in a jazz band now, which is pretty cool. I would like to hear some material from that. You know what I mean? Put out a CD or something. I would love to hear that. And that's it, folks. Hope you guys enjoyed that introduction. Like I said, if you want to get to know who Godfather Don is, like I said, check out his Diabolique album. You know, if you could find the Hazardous album, I wish you luck, cause yeah, unless you want to spend $80 for that shit. Or even check Ultramagnetic MC's Four Horsemen album to hear like his early stuff and stuff like that. Or even get the 90 sessions. And that's it, folks. Like I say, if you guys like Godfather, you like that dark, gritty, boom bap like I do, then by all means, definitely check him out. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Peace.